from SAIIE side, we have poured a little bit of money into this to make sure that industrial engineering is also well represented. And then, so also we needed a little bit of help, and we had Roald, who put up his hand. He did a lot of research for us, worked with the developers, worked with the NSTF, and it is my great honor to allow him to just talk a little bit about the about the STEMulator, and then also show us a little bit about how the STEMulator works. Thanks, Roald.
Hello, everybody. As everybody knows, there's a huge lack of people knowing that STEM fields are a very viable thing to go into. So I feel like the STEMulator, or this website's main goal, was to just show kids grade 8 to 9 that they have to start focusing on the important stuff, which is going into STEM fields and possibly making a great change within the world. This website is majority used for these cases. Jabula, one of my fellow students, they use this website going to like communities within Limpopo to start introducing kids to these types of fields. Obviously starting off, jumping into the manufacturing block, which represents us as an industry, you will see that you'll kind of get a cross-sectional view of exactly how a typical manufacturing plant looks. For instance, you will get your transportation, you will have your storage, you will have your data capturing parts, which relates to kind of Industry 4.0, the future, and then you will have your manufacturing side. Going into the manufacturing, you will have all these different viable bubbles that you can go further into, which includes your electronics component manufacturing, your motor vehicle manufacturing, your airplanes, your textiles, your food and beverages, and then lastly your pharmaceuticals. Let's say the person going onto this website has a big interest in cars. They would go and click on the car, and it will open up this kind of page which just shows you kind of the components that you can find within a motor vehicle manufacturing plant. This gives you like sort of just a good indication of what exactly goes on behind the manufacturing of these cars and how they get onto these roads. As you can see on the bottom is all the different occupations that are related to each manufacturing field. This will be on each of the pages. And as you can see, we also have industrial engineering. Further going into it, the people will be able to see a description of what exactly entails to become. Let me just enlarge it a bit. The people will be able to see what exactly entails industrial engineering and exactly where they can go to study this and follow maybe a passion into this. Also going back, you will see also at the bottom there is a Wikipedia site. If opened, it will open the whole industrial engineering page, which I can see all the other fields relating to it and so forth. And just to show another example of another manufacturing field, not to spend too much time on going on into each one, they could maybe go into the pharmaceuticals, which also will give you this kind of representation of exactly how the top left would be exactly how the pills are casted into their shapes, and then all these GIFs, which was kind of very important in developing, was having it in GIF format for low-cost data usages to ensure that the more like less privileged communities will be able to use this website and not blow away all their data. Then going out, back into it, and then maybe going into the storage side of a manufacturing plant, you will see what a typical storage setup looks, how they are interconnected, and exactly how the supply and demand gets out and in of the plants. Also bottom, industrial engineering obviously mainly involved in this. Then obviously going into transportation, as everybody knows, logistics is probably one of the most important aspects of any manufacturing field. You will see maybe just some form of innovation that the possible development into drone technology, which currently is not very added where it should be, but then also just showing you the main type of transport exactly from how it gets from point A to point B via ship freights, trucks, and then obviously loading into these manufacturing plants. At the bottom, you can also then get an indication of exactly who are involved in the transportation, which will be your civil engineers and your industrial engineers. And then lastly, also on each of these pages, each page has a video link which corresponds to a video correlating to each of these typical pages. So maybe they have great interest in knowing more about these transportation, for instance, they can play these videos and get a better understanding of exactly what entails going into these. Each of these videos, each of these videos are very informative and just kind of gives the viewer a kind of a broad sense of exactly what entails in these fields, and all of them are, I think, kept under 5 minutes to also just keep on that data restrictions that some communities will face. Then finally, it would be your Industry 4.0 section, which is kind of just making all of the people aware that the industry is an ever-evolving thing, that there will be future developments into certain things like AI technology, the Internet of Things, and all those things, just to give them an indication that going into something like manufacturing is going to be an ever-evolving thing, and they've got to start being aware of these concepts from early stage and just learn of them, and then maybe develop into those subjects more. If they can go to industrial engineering, then maybe with a focus on simulations or AI. Also followed by a description and a Wikipedia page, and then naturally all of the occupations linked to Industry 4.0, and all of these occupations have places where they can go study it, and obviously what it entails, which is kind of good. Not necessarily having to go into industrial engineering, they can also see that they can go into IT architecture or UI and UX design. And that's pretty much the gist of it. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Roald, for the incredible work that you've also done with the NSTF to put industrial engineering on the map. We came across the STEMulator, and we saw that industrial engineering was very, not even misrepresented, just unrepresented. And we decided that we were going to partner with the NSTF to make sure that industrial engineering is part of the career choice marketing, as we discussed yesterday, to all areas. So so the website is, or the STEMulator is free. Just go to the website, just type in STEMulator in your Google search. It should be one of the first ones to pop up. And then what the NSTF also does is they, as Roald mentioned, with the data restrictions and trying to keep the videos short, actually create loaded onto USB sticks to have an offline version of the STEMulator that they can then also take into communities which don't necessarily even have internet, but then they're able to play around with this. Obviously there's limitations. That version that gets downloaded is the version that's available, so there's no updates to it. So there's a lot of further development that is happening with this. This manufacturing tile was actually completed about a week ago, I believe. So yeah, so our deadline was we wanted to launch it at conference. So Roald, thank you very much for that. We're incredibly excited about the future of the STEMulator, also plugging in industrial engineering and a couple of the other tiles. It's actually, I'm going to talk about myself now. As a nerd, it's really fun. Like to just go onto the different tiles to see what there is. There's the agriculture block, there's an energy block, there's a museum, there's a gallery, there's a little house that you can play around with, and all the wiring. And if you click on the bread on the table in the house, it'll take you to the farming block. And yeah, all kinds of like really, really cool things that's happening with this project. So please, if you've also got further ideas that you would like to see and play around with, please let us know. The guy, Richard, that's working at the NSTF is extremely open to further development of this, and I think it's going to be a really important tool for STEM career choice marketing. So yeah, Rod, thank you very much. Appreciate the work and also for making the effort to be in test week.